This is for our inner circle. I am not speaking to a casual listener. I am speaking to you who have offered yourself to the work. So I must ask you, do not pass this on. Do not even pass on the phrases until you have sat with them long enough that they have ceased to be phrases and have become substance to you. Now then, you have written me, or you have come into the room and you have said with honesty, God feels silent. I respect that, but I will not romanticize it. In the spiritual life, we must treat such a report not as poetry, but as a practical problem. Either there is no God, or God is, and if God is, then the silence is not a void, it is a fullness we have not yet learned to receive. If I speak sharply, it is because we have work to do. The first discovery shocking to the religious mind is that the silence is not always on God's side. Very often it is that the personal mind is still speaking. You believe you are waiting on God, but I must tell you, you are composing, rehearsing, explaining, pleading, calculating, promising. You are addressing God as if God were an object out there, a negotiator to be informed or persuaded or stirred to action. And while you are doing that, even if your words are lovely, you are making so much noise that you cannot hear what is already present. Be still and know that I am God. Now, do not be quick to agree with that. Take it as a command spoken into your condition. Be still. You cannot know while you are speaking. Be still and then know. I have sat where you sit. I have filled the room with my religious thinking, and I have mistaken the sound of my piety for the presence of God. No, the kingdom of God is within you. If it is within, then your many words aimed outward will never locate it. We will correct this. I am going to ask you to accept a promise and a caution together. The promise is this: there is a place in you, not far, not reserved for saints of old. There is a place of stillness where prayer turns around instead of you addressing God. You will discover you are addressed by the inner presence that says, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Do not try to hurry to it. Do not even try to feel holy on the way. Just accept that such stillness is the gate. And now the caution, and I must say it with weight. Do not turn what I am saying into a technique to get outcomes. Do not use God. If you take these words and you make them a lever to pry open some desired effect, you will have introduced into your prayer the very noise we are removing. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Not in bargaining, not in exertion. Quietness and confidence. Confidence in what? In the I, that is God within, not in the workings of your named self. Put up thy sword. Cease your inner warfare with circumstances. Cease your many plans and be willing to find out whether God is God without your assistance. At this moment, begin to notice, are you still explaining to God your need? Are you scripting the answer and calling it faith? Are you repeating scripture to make something move? You, of course, may use the word, but you may not use it as a hammer. Let it come to you. Be still and know I am God. Leave it there. The mind will protest, but what about? Be still. And what if? Be still. Do you see? If God seems silent, it may be because you have not yet consented to silence. Consent, and you will not find a blank, you will find a presence. And that, my dear one, is where our work properly begins. Now then, to proceed honestly with this work, I must ask you to take on only for the purpose of this meditation, and I repeat, only for the purpose of this training, a simple but radical assumption. There are two of you, not two persons in any pathological sense. No, two positions of identity. There is the named self, the one your family calls by name, the one with memories and opinions, the one that argues and bargains and repeats. And there is the, I do not rush past that word, the I, that beholds, that hears, that is not frightened by appearances, that does not need to make anything happen because it is life itself. It is not I, but Christ liveth in me. Let that not be a plaque on a wall. Let it be the inner fact we are training to live from. Who is it that has been praying? Do not answer quickly. Who is it that has been explaining to God, counting needs, timing outcomes, grading yourself on results? Is it not the named one, the autobiography trying to instruct infinity? And who is it that even now can watch this named one at work? Who is it that can say, ah, there goes my mind again. There is your clue. The witness of your own thought is not your thinking, it is the I that hears. Be still and know I am God. Who is it that can obey that? Not the storm of the personal mind, the I alone can know. I must tell you this plainly. What you have been calling unanswered prayer is very often misplaced identity. The personal sense has been trying to get God to respond to it, to its schedule, to its fear, to its bright plans. And God, being God, does not sit on the other end of that conversation as a negotiator, not by might, nor by power, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. If you have been applying might and calling it fervor, or applying power and calling it faith, you have been the named self, speaking to an imagined God outside. That is why you cannot hear. Noise cannot hear. Effort cannot receive. So we begin here. For this meditation, assume there are two of you, me, the named one, and I, the one that hears. At first, you may feel odd to speak this way. Accept that. This is not a permanent dualism. It is a working posture until the realization dawns that the two were never two. But for now, it will help you step out of the argument long enough to listen. The named self prays to get, the I abides to receive. The named self cannot imagine answers without pictures. The I recognizes presence before pictures. The kingdom of God is within you. Within what? Within the I that beholds, not within the noise that begs. Who is it that is praying? Ask that several times a day, not as a trick, as an exposing light. Who is it that is listening? If you find you are still the one arranging, correcting, reminding, proving, then know that you have not yet moved to the beholder. Do not condemn yourself, just move. My sheep hear my voice. Do you see? The issue is not volume of prayer, but identity of the one praying. The moment you relocate to the I that hears prayer alters without your help. Your language softens. The demand falls. A different current is felt, quiet, authoritative. Not in words at first, but in the sense, I am with you always. That is not your affirmation to God. That is the inner presence addressing you. At this stage, do not try to fix anything with this. I forbid it, and I do so for your safety. Keep the practice clean. Cease trying to use the I to rescue the named self's projects. The I does not serve the personal will. The I governs. Your task now is only this shift from the named self doing prayer to the I resting in awareness. Let the named one sit down. Let the I take its rightful seat as beholder. And from that seat, even before any outer change, you will feel the first gift, a quieting that does not depend on circumstance, peace. Not because the world obeyed you, but because you have remembered who hears. Deep calleth unto deep. That depth is where we will go next, and we will do it slowly, privately, until the inner government is no longer a theory, but the atmosphere of your day. Now then, before we go any farther into the practice, I must speak plainly about the thing that drowns the inner voice even when you are trying to be devout. It is this, the subtle violence of trying to make God do something. You would not raise your hand against a neighbor, but do you see how easily you raise a lever against the invisible with your words? Lord, make this happen. Stop that, change her, move him, heal this by Tuesday. You call it petition, but if you will listen behind the words, you will hear pressure, insistence, bargaining, fear. That is not communion. That is the named self attempting to hire omnipotence to secure an outcome for its story. Not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. When your prayer smells of might, of power, of push, it is already noise. I am not scolding, I am diagnosing. When there is pressure in you, your very scripture becomes a weapon. You do not let the word address you. You brandish the word at life. Put up thy sword. Non-aggression is not only refusing to strike with the hand, it is refusing to strike with the will, with the mind, with religious language. The moment you begin to use affirmations to force a condition to yield, you have left the sanctuary and entered a workshop of control. Be honest. Have you not repeated the name of a disease more times in prayer than you have allowed the name to speak in you? Have you not rehearsed the fear, rehearsed the date, rehearsed the doctor's sentence, rehearsed the bank balance, until all your kneeling is a lecture to yourself about the power of appearances? That is how words become noise. They repeat the claim until the claim fills the temple. We have been flooded, all of us, with claims, cataracts, cancer, heart conditions, loneliness, lost checks, rebellious sons and daughters, and the hidden idol, the one we are too religious to name, is the belief that form has power, that circumstance is a god, that a symptom is a god, that a number in a ledger is a god. And because we fear these gods, we think we must enlist the true God to fight them. Thou shalt have no other gods before me, not even the gods of diagnosis and deadlines. The very moment you grant power to the appearance, your prayer turns into a campaign. You hold committee meetings in your mind, you argue your case, you call witnesses from last year's trouble, and you draft God into your army. And then you say, God is silent. No, your army is loud. Hear me. All power is in the I that I am. There is no power in form or effect. To the degree you believe there is, to that degree your prayer will be the act of trying to move power from one form to another, and there will be no room to be addressed. Be still and know that I am God. You cannot know while you are legislating. You cannot know while you are chanting compulsively against what you have enthroned. Be still. Put down the lever, put away the timetable, and admit that your aggression, even spiritual aggression, has not brought you 1 inch closer to peace. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Do you ask, what then shall I do when the claim shouts? You will not fight it. You will not repeat it. You will not grant it audience in the Holy of Holies. You will notice it as an appearance. You will refuse it power, and you will return to the posture of the beholder. Get thee behind me, Satan, not as drama, but as the simple act of depriving the appearance of your consent. And then, without display, you will let the compulsion to use God fall of its own weight. When that compulsion relaxes, a door opens. Stillness becomes possible. And in stillness, guidance is not produced, it is heard. My sheep hear my voice. That voice does not bully, does not negotiate, does not plead. It announces itself as presence. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. I must ask you to be very careful here. Do not seek to prove this by rushing to the most frightening claim and testing your prowess. Keep the purpose of this secret. For a season, let the only proof be the disappearance of pressure within you, That is already the first demonstration, peace preceding any outward shift, because in that peace you have ceased worshiping effects and returned to the I that governs. When the idol of form falls, words no longer need to push. They can fall silent, and you can begin at last to hear, "Be still and know I am God." Now then, here is the first discipline, and I must ask you to accept it as a prerequisite, not as an experiment. This is not a one-time attempt. This is not an emotion you chase or a mood you wait to feel. Stillness is a consent, and consent must be practiced until it becomes your very consciousness. If you will not do that, if you insist on trying this for a weekend to see if it works, I must ask you to set it aside until you are ready. Be still and know that I am God. Not be thrilled, not be inspired. Be still and know. You will not at the start like this. At first, you may not enjoy it. You may not approve of it. You may feel you are doing nothing. That is correct. That is the complaint of the named self losing its megaphone. The carnal mind, Scripture says it very bluntly, is enmity against God, and so do not expect applause when you deny it its committee meetings. The sense of, I must think about this and I must plan that, will try to justify itself with urgency. Take that as a signal you are entering the gate. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Quietness and confidence are not the habits of the personal mind. They are the fruit of consent. I must set the boundary of secrecy here for your protection and for the purity of your motive. Do this in secret. Do not perform it. Do not announce it as your new method. Do not make it a badge before your family, your church, your social circle. When thou prayest, enter into thy closet, and when thou hast shut thy door, pray to thy Father which is in secret. Keep the purpose of it secret. If even a part of you is tempted to appear devout, to be seen as a serious practitioner, postpone the public notice and return to the closet. All worship done for display loses weight. It turns to form. We are not furnishing the outer temple. We are consenting to the inner government. Time. You must assign time, not whenever I feel like it. Choose a daily period, one substantial period each day, and then several short returns during the day. I am going to say this plainly. For no less than 3 to 4 months, you will keep a daily period, close to an hour if you can, never less than a half hour, and in addition, you will return 3 or 4 times a day for a brief interval, 2, 3, 5 minutes to reestablish consent. Do not hurry these minutes. Do not count them as achievements. Do not rush for experiences. If you are tempted to push for a result, put up thy sword. Lay down the inner aggression. This is not might, not power, but spirit. During that daily period, you will sit not to display holiness, not with a face arranged for piety, simply and privately. You may kneel if you are led. You may sit in a chair. It is nothing to the spirit whether your knees touch the floor. It is everything that your motive. Be clean. No music to impress yourself. No incense for show. Just your consent. Be still. You will say it inwardly, not as a hammer, as a gentle, steady instruction. Be still. And when thought rushes in with its urgent lists, you will not wrestle. You will notice and return to be still. At first it will feel like nothing. Good. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. Lying down feels like inactivity to a mind trained to strive. Consent anyway. How will you know you are succeeding at this first discipline? Not by visions, not by tingling, not by voices, not by tears, though tears may come, and they will have their place. Success at this stage is simple, interior, quiet, a cessation however brief, of the mind's argument with God. The pressure in the chest loosens. The commentary relaxes. The need to manage reality lets go just a little. The peace of God which passeth all understanding shall keep your hearts and minds. That peace is not drama, it is government. If you notice even a few seconds in which you are not pushing, receive it as the first demonstration. Between your daily periods, the short returns are not to be theatrical pauses. They are not a show of devotion at your desk. They are a closing of the eyes for a minute in the car before you turn the key, a single inward bow before you answer the telephone, a quiet breath at the sink, and again, be still. You are re-educating the inner climate, not collecting spiritual souvenirs. And please hear me. Do not attempt to fix anything in these returns. If a claim rises, "Get thee behind me," is sufficient, not as combat, as non-consent. Refuse it power and resume consent. You are training the day to be governed from the eye, not from appearances. If in these weeks you find yourself hungry for proof, for a sign, for an outer change, confess it to yourself and let it fall. We are not using God. We are letting God be God. And the first evidence that you have consented is the quiet that does not bargain. Keep this private. Keep it steady. Let stillness become the atmosphere into which we will next invite the mind, the shoulders, the breath, the very frame of your being to be addressed. But first, this discipline. Be still, without hurry, without display, until stillness begins to govern the day. Now then, we begin the guided entry, and I must ask you to accept, for these few minutes, a change of position. Not a change of furniture, a change of identity. Move, yes, quietly move from the named one who has been thinking to the beholder who can look, as if you were seated 2 inches above the crown of your head, poised and simple, not straining, just there. From that seat, look inward and downward as if your head were a clear space, a softly lit room into which thoughts have been wandering as guests without announcement. Do not chase them. Do not greet them. Do not send them away. Just behold. You will notice almost at once the narrating, the little voice that explains why you are here, estimates the minutes, plans supper, reviews the letter, wonders if this is working. Good. That is not an enemy, that is a habit. Let it speak a sentence or two without interference while you keep your seat as beholder. And from that seat, without hurry, without any need to convince, place upon that inner speech a simple instruction that is older than your habits. Be still. Not as a blow, as a benediction. Be still. And again, be still and know that I am God. I am asking you not to make a contest of this. You will not conquer the mind. You will not pin it to the floor. You will not give it a beating and call that spirituality. You relocate. You withdraw authority from its babble by taking your seat in the eye that hears. My sheep hear my voice. The sheep do not lecture the voice. They do not prove it. They recognize and rest. From this recognition, address the head gently, repeatedly, as a mother with a child that is overexcited. Be still. Peace. Be still. Do not count the words. Do not chant. Let the phrase come as it comes, and when it does not come, be quiet. The authority is not in the syllables, but in the one who speaks them within you. You will see that the narrating tries again. It offers you a memory, a to-do list, a theological comment. Smile inwardly. You are not its audience anymore. You have slid your chair back from the stage. From that slight distance, just that bid it once more. Be still. Do not forbid a single thought. Do not suppress a single image. We are not putting a lid on boiling water. We are turning down the flame. The flame is attention. As you attend less to the chatter and more to the beholding, the surface calms of its own accord. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Keep your eyes, your inner eyes, upon the whole head, as if it were open to view from your high seat. See the brow, the temples, the back of the skull. See the currents of inner speech for what they are, movements in consciousness, not masters of it. Without commentary, be still. The words may be almost soundless now, more an intent than a sentence. Good. Let them thin. If they return with sound, good. Use them. You, of course, cannot use it as a formula. You have to use it as it comes to you. Always from the beholder, never from the beggar. At a certain point, do not make a time of it. You will sense a looseness across the forehead, a softening behind the eyes. The commentary becomes less insistent, as if it has realized that this is not its meeting to chair. Do not pounce on that. Do not say, success. That would bring the named one back to measure. Simply abide one breath longer in the seat above, and let the instruction rest like a hand of light upon the mind. Be still, and know that I am God. Not be numb, no. Not be blank, no. Knowledge without words, recognition without story. If you are tempted to produce silence, stop. We do not produce, we yield. If a gust of thought blows through, do not reach for the shutters. Witness it pass. And when the gust is over, quietly, peace, be still. This is non-aggression in practice. Put up thy sword toward heaven and toward your own mind. The very nothingness of the babble, once you refuse it, governance precludes any necessity for you to grapple with it. Let it be nothing by not making it something. Now, hear me. The head is only the first classroom. It is your first student, perhaps your most talkative, but not your only one. As this region quiets even a degree, you will be shown, quite naturally, that the body also has its arguments with life, shoulders braced as if to hold up a world, hands clenched as if to defend a throne that never was. We will go there next. For now, complete this period by sitting 1 minute more in the beholder's chair, letting the stillness you have invited govern the room of the head. Do not hunt for messages. If they are needed, they will come. If not, let the quiet itself be the first message, the first governance, the first answer. Be still and know that I am God. From this seat, we will address the shoulders and the arms, not as adversaries, but as students prepared to learn. Now then, without standing from your seat above, let your attention slide gently, like a hand of light, down through the neck and into the shoulders. Do not hurry. These shoulders have been holding court. They have believed themselves responsible for the world. They have worn your plans like armor, your anxieties like sandbags, your deadlines like epaulettes. They are not wrong. They are just tired from carrying what belongs not to them, but to the eye that governs. From the beholder, rest the word, not as a command shouted from a pulpit, but as a blessing that settles. Be still, and know that I am God. Let the collarbones float. Let the trapezius lower itself as if it has remembered a chair was always behind it. Do not press the shoulders down with effort. Effort is the old king. You are not forcing relaxation. You are consenting to it. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Let that strength arrive in the form of softness. Again, quietly, be still. Now look down along both upper arms, from the shoulders to the elbows. See how often these arms have been raised in invisible combat, defending, gesturing, convincing, driving a point. They have been the soldiers of your inner argument with life. Put up thy sword. You do not need to strike heaven, and you do not need to strike the world. Let the biceps and triceps unclench as if they have been given amnesty. Be still, and once more, be still at the elbows. Notice this hinge. Observe how quickly you are ready to bend into action or lock into refusal. This is often where you brace. Lay the benediction there. Peace. Be still. Not limpness. Not collapse. Poised receptivity. The hinge becomes responsive to a different government, one you are not voicing but acknowledging. Moving on. Descend through the forearms. Here is the corridor of your daily insistence, typing, tallying, pointing, seizing. You have taught these forearms to measure the hour and clutch the outcome. Let them retire from management. Be still. And at the wrists, where you have often tightened as you brace to hold a world together, let the small bones loosen as if the very clock within them has stopped its scolding. Be still and know that I am God. Now, the hands, see them not as tools only, but as living instruments that have carried your mental pressure, the ledger, the letter, the list, the lock on the door. They have clenched around possessions and pushed away threats. They have even tried to sculpt God in their image by arranging circumstances. Hold them in your awareness as if you were placing them into larger hands. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Let the palms open, even if upon your lap a fraction. If they wish to uncurl, let them uncurl. If they wish to rest face down, let them rest. You are not making a sign for anyone to see. You are consenting to be governed. Be still. Fingers now thumb, first, second, third, fourth. Do not count them as a technique. Bathe them in the one instruction. Peace, be still. Do you notice, even slightly, a weight dropping from the upper frame, a warmth or a quiet between the shoulders, a softening in the wrists, a willingness in the hands not to hold life up but to receive it? Do not catalog sensations. Just notice the argument easing. The moment you can bid the body to be still, you make it receptive to a government you are not voicing. You are not sending power down the arms. You are withdrawing your private power from them so that the I may be their life. It is not I, but Christ liveth in me. Stay one breath more with the hands. If an impulse arises to prove something, to test the stillness by movement, to demand a sign, let that pass as you might let a stranger pass your gate. Get thee behind me, not as anger, as non-consent. Then, again, without drama, be still. The quieter the body becomes, the less you feel abandoned, because abandonment was the feeling of carrying a world yourself. As the argument ceases in the flesh, presence becomes palpable without a word. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. You do not summon that, you overhear it in the hush. We are not done, but we have begun properly. Shoulders released from administration, arms relieved from combat, hands retired from grasping. Now the instrument can be played by the musician. Keep this private, no display. In the next period, we will come to the chest and the breath, where urgency has been calling itself holy. For now, remain 1 minute more with the hands quietly open in consciousness, as if resting in the everlasting arms. Be still and know that I am God. Now then, from the quiet of the hands, let your awareness flow. Not jump, flow into the chest. Slip behind the breastbone as if you were stepping into a room where the heart has been speaking in a language of drums and whispers. Do not analyze the beat. Do not grade the rhythm. Simply behold the whole chamber, ribs like a gentle cage, sternum like a door you need not pry open, and beneath it all the diaphragm, that faithful servant that has been pumping urgency as if urgency were holiness. From the seat of the beholder, not the beggar, rest the benediction here. Be still, and know that I am God. You will at once discover the place where prayer has often pretended to be faith by tightening. Here it is. right here, in the press against the ribs, in the flutter that says, I must get an answer now. Acknowledge it. Do not rebuke it. We are not condemning the frightened child. We are teaching it. Let the beholder address this room, this altar, where fear disguises itself in religious language. Gently, let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. Do not convert that into a project. Let it be the atmosphere. And again, in the simplest word heaven has given us, be still. Now, the breath. Leave the breath alone. Do not take charge of it. Do not count. Do not flatten it. Do not make a technique of the Holy Spirit. The personal mind loves to become the conductor. It will try to push the lungs into peace and call that spirituality. Put up thy sword. You are not forcing calm. You are consenting to government. Watch the breath as a witness. The in-breath arrives of itself. The out-breath leaves of itself. You are the beholder of God's wind in God's temple. The wind bloweth where it listeth. Thou hearest the sound thereof. You are hearing. Each time you notice the urge to seize it, breathe deeper, breathe slower. Make this work. Return softly to the one instruction. Be still. Name the swap and do it honestly. Urgency is not faith. Urgency is fear pretending to be devotion. Urgency kneels with clenched teeth and says, by Friday, Lord. Faith bows without a clock and whispers, thy will be done. For this moment, catch urgency in the act without shame. You are not failing because you feel fear. You are training consciousness to recognize the impostor and to cease giving it your consent. Perfect love casteth out fear. How does it cast it out? Not by wrestling, by arriving. Let love arrive by making room purchased from panic. That room is stillness. Address the ribs as if they were students who have been bracing for years, along the left side, along the right, front and back. Bless them with the same even hand. Be still. To the diaphragm, yes. To that bellows that surges when you worry, lay no command. But this, peace. Be still. If it heaves, let it heave without your interference. If it settles, let it settle without your pride. As the wave rises and falls, you remain the shore. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You may find even now that a thought tries to help. Perhaps if I picture the heart slowing, or if I imagine light here. No, do not hire imagery to force an effect. You are not using God. You are letting God be God in his temple. Keep the purpose of this secret. Let the only measure be this. The argument in the chest is quieter than it was a minute ago. And if it is not, if it is louder for a time, do not panic about panic. Sit 1 minute longer than your discomfort recommends and continue without aggression. Be still and know that I am God. As something loosens, however, slightly, you will notice a change in the questioner. The voice that demanded, why won't God answer, loses its breath as the breath is left alone. A different question arises unbidden, almost shyly. What is God saying as I rest here? Do not chase an answer. The shift of question is itself the first answer. In that turn, your prayer ceases to demand and becomes capable of receiving, my sheep hear my voice. Not because they shouted louder, but because the wind within the chest was no longer being ordered to blow. Remain a little while with this, heart at rest without being controlled, breath observed without being managed, ribs unbraced from their war. If any claim flashes, deadline, diagnosis, dread, do not summon troops. Get thee behind me, not as combat, as non-consent, and resume the one holy labor. Be still. As urgency dissolves, peace begins to prove itself, not as emotion, but as governance. In the next turn, we will drop deeper to the spine, the back, the belly, where the old control center sits at its desk. For now, let the chest be a sanctuary where you have ceased using God and begun to be addressed by God. Peace I leave with you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled. Be still, and know that I am God. Now then, from the quiet of the chest, do not leap slide, as if down a slow river into the spine and the back. Do not picture bones unless it helps. Rather, as before, imagine the whole torso as open space, a hollow sanctuary you can behold from your seat above. Let your seeing drop behind the heart, behind the lungs, to the column that has been your staff and, too often, your spear. Without hurry, look down the neck into the upper vertebrae, as if you could see each little gate along the way. No manipulation, no chiropractic of the soul, only the benediction that governs. Be still, and know that I am God. Across the shoulder blades, the wings that have been held tight against a winter notice, the old oath, I will hold this up, I will brace, I will endure. You have made a hero of strain. Lay down that metal now. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord. Not stand rigid. Stand still. Let the trapezius soften again, not by pressing it, by releasing it from duty. Be still. Between the blades, where the nameless vigilance keeps watch at night, where the sentry walks and never sleeps, set the word as a lamp. Peace. Be still. You are not being negligent, you are yielding government. Slowly, let your gaze travel down the spine as if the torso were indeed hollow, a lit corridor through which presence has always desired to walk unhurried. At each segment, mid-back, lower back, do not diagnose, bless. Be still. Here, in the lumbar region, the old control center has sat with its ledges: security, survival, schedule, supply. It has pulled the muscles inward, as if strapping on armor for a battle with life. We do not break the straps. We unfasten consent. Put up thy sword. Against the world, against your own condition, put it up. No more striking out with inner violence to make peace. Peace does not come by blows. It arrives when you stop granting fear a throne. Now to the belly. Slip gently, like a hand of light, into the abdomen, the navel's country, the solar plexus with its dimmer switch set too often to alarm. Do not go there as an operator. Go as the beholder. This is where thought has descended and become grip. Control is not only a sentence in the head. It is a fist you cannot see. Feel for the fist without grabbing it. Look as if the whole belly were a bowl of air. Say into that bowl the one command that is not a command but a return. Be still. Take no thought for your life, what ye shall eat or what ye shall drink. Take no thought does not mean be careless. It means cease grasping the reins of a universe you did not create. Across the lower abdomen, yes, even into the hip creases where the psoas tightens as if to pull you forward into the next fight. Let the blessing flow. Be still. Again, be still. If it tightens once more, do not answer tightening with effort. No, you are not the mechanic under the hood. You are the heir standing in the house. Fear not, little flock, for it is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. The kingdom governs without your clench. As the girdle of the loins loosens not into collapse, into trust, you will understand that bracing was your private government, and it is resigning now. Let the breath keep its own rhythm. Do not recruit it into your project. Watch how, as the belly ceases to grip, the breath deepens of itself, not on your count, on God's. The diaphragm, which was conscripted into urgency, begins to serve grace. Be careful for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known unto God. And what is this prayer? Not words pushed upward, but a life laid open downward, consent replacing conquest. Remain 1 minute longer than your impatience recommends. Especially here, the old foreman within will say, enough, we have things to do. Smile and remain. Get thee behind me, not as scolding, as non-consent to the old rule. As the lower back stops holding the walls up and the belly stops trying to steer the earth, something changes that you cannot manufacture. The hush thickens, and within that hush, you begin to sense not your addressing, but a nearness that addresses. Not words, perhaps at first, it may be like a warmth of quiet upon the inner citadel. Then perhaps later, a still small voice. Do not call to it, do not trap it, do not display it. Simply allow it. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. This is the threshold. The deeper the body's control relaxes, the nearer you come to being addressed from within. You are not abandoning the world. You are entering the government that rules it. Underneath, feel it now, are the everlasting arms. Do you see that the spine is no longer a spear but a staff? The back no longer a wall but a window? The belly no longer a fist but a chalice? Keep it private. Keep it simple. If a claim knocks pain, problem, pressure, do not brace. Refuse it power without a blow. Be still and know that I am God. From here we will learn to stand in the world without leaning on fear, but for this moment, remain in the hush, where the address is nearer than breath and stronger than bones. Peace, be still. Now then, without breaking the hush you have discovered, let the attention move slowly, as a hand of light into the hips. Do not hurry. The hips are your hinge with the world, the doorway through which you step into your tomorrows. They hold your idea of support, of forward motion, of the future you must reach. From the beholder, without any show, lay the same benediction that has governed us thus far. Be still, and know that I am God. Not your schedule, not the market, not the diagnosis. God, feel, if you can, a subtle unhooking where the pelvis has been trying to steer destiny. We are not abandoning destiny, we are ceasing to drive it. We walk by faith, not by sight. Let the blessing flow down into the thighs. These are the great engines of your life, the strength with which you have pushed and climbed and defended your plans. We do not shame their strength. We relieve them of a task that does not belong to flesh. Be still. Again, be still, not limpness. Strength under government, having done all, to stand. If a tightness lifts from the fronts of the thighs or the backs, do not grab at it as proof. Do not narrate it. Accept it as you would accept a chair that was always beneath you. Be still and know. Now to the knees, the place of bending, of yielding, of prayer itself. Here, many of you have been locked or collapsed, refusing to bend or bending in panic. Neither is devotion. Devotion is poised consent. Address the knees as students who must learn the holy softness that does not wobble. Peace, be still. Every knee shall bow, not to fear, not to appearances, not to a future that threatens, but to I am that I am. Let the bow be inward, a willingness to yield the weight of your outcomes to the presence that governs. Slide down into the calves, the muscles of preparedness, the springs that have kept you ready to run. You have slept in your shoes. You have lived as if chased. Lay the word into the very fibers that twitch at headlines and emails and clocks. Be still. Put up thy sword, even the sword of hurry, a readiness that is always braced, is not readiness, it is fear in uniform. Quietly, be still, and know I am God. At the ankles, the small governors of balance, notice how often they stiffen when you face uncertainty. Here is where you have tried to find poise by gripping the earth with strategy. No, our poise is not from friction, it is from faith. Bless the joints. Peace be still. He will keep the feet of his saints. Let keeping be his, not yours. Now the feet, these meet the world. They have been your points of contact with the ground of appearance, and they have often believed that the ground is your security. It is not. The earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof. Hold both feet in your awareness as if you were placing them into larger feet, shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. Not the gospel of panic, not the gospel of guarantee. Peace. Be still. If your souls feel heavy, let them be heavy without thought. If they feel light, let them be light without pride. Whisper as you would to a child falling asleep. Be still, and know, I am. I am God. Let the blessing wash into the toes, yes, one by one if you like, but not as a technique to produce sensation. We are not proving anything to anyone, least of all to ourselves. We are consenting to government. Be still. First toe, second, third, fourth, fifth, on both feet, each released from the unconscious, clutching at security in the soil of circumstances. Refuse display. Do not wiggle to check if it worked. This is not calisthenics. This is consecration. Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. Let the lamp be presence, not plan. Now, look without looking down at the whole structure as one. Hips through thighs, through knees, through calves, through ankles to feet and toes, all under one government. You are being trained to stand in the world without leaning on fear, without leaning on appearances for support. Claims will come. Appearances will pass before your door. Do not take sides with them by granting them power. Meet them in non-aggression from the stance you are practicing now. Be still and know that I am God. Fear thou not, for I am with thee. With you where? In the very mechanism of standing in the legs that no longer brace against the universe, but stand in it as its air. Remain 1 minute longer than you wish. Let the whole lower body rest in the hush that has gathered. If, in this quiet, you begin to sense a communication not of your making, do not chase it. Do not put a net over it. Simply be addressed. The body is now quiet enough to know the speaker by his peace. That peace is not a mood, it is government. Keep this secret. Keep it simple. Be still and know, I am God. Now then, if you have truly remained that extra minute after your will was finished with the practice, you have come to the verge of the great turn. I must say this plainly, because it can slip by unnoticed. There comes a moment when you are no longer speaking at God, the machinery that forms questions, the pusher that arranges phrases, the beggar that improves upon Scripture, all that grows quiet, not by your force, but because it has run out of authority. And in that quiet, without trumpet or drama, there is simply listening. Do not make a technique of that sentence. I am telling you what occurs when the personal mind stops talking. Be still and know that I am God. How does being addressed appear? No, usually not as a voice you can record, not a dictation for a book. It is a weight of quiet that feels like being held from within. It is a remembrance that never came by effort. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Notice, it does not arrive as a quotation to be displayed. It arrives as comfort that dissolves the ache which was asking. Sometimes it is direction, but not a push, more like a rightness that shows itself calmly. This is the way, walk ye in it. Sometimes nothing is said at all, and yet the question has no more breath. It is I, be not afraid. That line will not come because you fetched it from memory. It will come to you as if another knew thine inward parts and spoke your native tongue. I must warn you now, and I will not say this twice. Do not chase phenomena. If lights dance, let them dance away. If warmth spreads, do not take its temperature. If you hear words, do not engrave them on your front door. Keep the purpose of this secret. The proof of being addressed is peace and the unforced next right step, not a diary of visions. Put up thy sword, even the subtle sword that would carve God into display for your reassurance. We are not collecting experiences. We are consenting to government. In that turn, identity shifts. For a breath, you will discover that the named self, the one who was addressing so earnestly, has become the beholder. And who then is the one who addresses? I, not the I of mental speech, but the I that is your life. Outwardly, it still appears to be you signing the letter, making the call, keeping the silence, but inwardly, the doer has changed. It is not I, but Christ liveth in me. You will not have to announce this. You will recognize it because strain is absent from action. You will do without doing, and the doing will be right. You may find just here that a buried fear leaps up. What if I make a mistake? What if that was only my imagination? Good. Let the fear disclose itself. Then refuse it power without a struggle. Get thee behind me, not as anger, as non-consent, and return to the hush in which the word arose of itself. You do not certify the word. The peace that comes with it certifies it. Be still and know I am God. This is the beginning of divine government. You were trying to move heaven by many words. Now heaven moves you by one silence. The difference is not poetic. It is practical. Where you used to strain, you will find yourself placed. Where you used to defend, you will find yourself unarmed and kept. Where you used to argue with appearances, you will find yourself uninterested in lending them authority. And listen carefully. This begins before any outward result. The first evidence of being addressed is the ceasing of inward warfare. Peace, not as a mood, as rule. In our next period, I shall ask you to accept that peace as the first demonstration, the immediate answer to prayer, and to let it govern your sight before you look for any change in the scene. For now, keep the turn sacred. Do not hurry it. Do not market it. Sit 1 minute longer than your impulse and allow the inner voice to be the only voice. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. Be still and listen. Now then, I must ask you to accept one fact without argument, because without it, you will wander for years and call it seeking. The immediate answer to prayer is peace, not the rearrangement of bodies and bank books. Peace. Be still and know that I am God. If you cannot accept that peace is the first demonstration, you will go on pulling at the outer scene, and the scene being last to yield will tease you, and you will say, God is silent. No, God is not silent. The personal mind is not yet agreed to the order of demonstration. First within, then without. The kingdom of God cometh not with observation, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. Why is it so? Because what stands between you and realization is not a stubborn universe. It is the noise of your own fear and managing. These are the first claims to dissolve fear. Hurry. The itch to use God for a purpose. When fear loses your consent, you do not become passive, you become governed. Let the peace of God rule in your hearts. Do you hear that verb? Rule. Peace is not a mood you happen to feel on a Saturday afternoon. Peace is the presence establishing government at the center. Once the center is governed, the circumference will in due season reflect that government. Outer conditions are the most inert, like the last ice to melt at the edge of spring. Do not take their delay as evidence against God. Take your inward quiet as evidence of God with you. I will never leave thee, nor forsake thee. You must learn the logic of proof. A small, genuine shift proves the principle the way that first ungainly, wind-battered minute at Kitty Hawk proved flight, 57 seconds, and the world changed. So it is here, one breath in which panic is not in charge, 1 hour in which hurry cannot conscript you, one decision made without the old heat. This is your 57 seconds. Do not despise the day of small things. Mark it. Oh, now I know. You can't fool me now. That little is not little. It is the infinite entering time as evidence. But please hear me. Peace is not passivity. Do not let the mind counterfeit government with loafing. Peace produces clarity, restraint, and right timing. In returning and rest shall ye be saved. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Strength. Watch how peace forbids the hasty word you would have spoken, and then, quietly, bids you write the letter at the right hour. Watch how peace keeps you from calling 3 people for counsel, and then, in stillness, puts one name before you with certainty. Peace will even tell you to wait when every clock shouts now, and will move you when your old fear would have delayed. This is not you managing yourself, it is I within governing the instrument. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, not stand frozen, stand ruled. Now we come to healing. When peace is established, you cease granting reality to claims, and the claims begin to lose their seeming power. Not because you struck them, not because you shouted at them, but because you withdrew the only life they ever borrowed, your fear. Put up thy sword. Non-aggression is not weakness. It is refusal to crown an appearance with authority. The moment peace rules, you can look at the rumor called disease or lack and say, without heat, you have no law, no mandate, no God to back you. Get thee behind me, not as combat, as non-consent. In that posture, the appearance begins to sink back into the native nothingness from which it strutted forth. So, from this hour, let peace be your first standard of answered prayer. Do not hurry to the window to check the weather of circumstances. Remain 1 minute longer than your curiosity, and let the inward quiet verify itself. The peace of God, which passeth all understanding, shall keep your hearts and minds through Christ Jesus. Keep there again as government. Let it keep you until the right word, the right act, the right withholding arises of itself. When you meet the next claim, meet it from this rule. I do not fight you. I do not feed you. I do not fear you. I am kept. Be still and know I am God. In that knowing, the first demonstration is complete. And from there, the outer must, sooner or later, agree. Now then, since peace has come to stand as our standard, we must speak very plainly about claims. When I say claims, do not narrow your thought to diagnoses alone. Claims are symptoms, yes, and medical names, yes, but they are also memories that accuse you at midnight, resentments rehearsed while washing dishes, dread at the mailbox, panic at the calendar, the old story about your father or your failure that keeps applying for a throne in your thought, a drop in the market, the rumor at work, the glance that seemed to reject you. Each is a claimant, each saying, grant me authority. Bow. A claim is any appearance that demands to be treated as power. Now listen carefully, because here the entire practice either becomes demonstration or remains pious talk. There is no power in form or effect. All power is in the I that I am. If you grant power to form, to a lump, to a headline, to a memory you have, by that act of consent created your tyrant. We do not conquer tyrants by stabbing at shadows. We dethrone them by withdrawing the consent upon which their throne stood. Thou couldst have no power at all against me, except it were given thee from above. Above what? Above the level of form, above appearance, above the senses report. Be still, and know that I am God. Therefore our rule remains. Put up thy sword. Do not fight the claim. Do not hate it. Do not fear it. Why? Because to hate it is to bind yourself to it. To fear it is to feed it. And to fight it is to crown it with the compliment of your opposition. We meet claims in a complete state of non-aggression. Stand still, not frozen, governed, and refuse to grant reality where God has not given it. No weapon that is formed against thee shall prosper. Notice, it does not say, lay hold of every weapon and break it. It says it shall not prosper, provided you do not hand it your breath. What then is the inner language? Do not make a formula. Let it arise from peace, the way a well speaks when asked nothing. Often it is simply this: without heat, get thee behind me. Behind what? Behind me, the beholder, behind consciousness, out of the front row of my attention. Not in front as ruler, not on the throne of my consent. Get thee behind me. Sometimes it amends itself. You have no law, no mandate, no God to back you. Sometimes it is only a glance withheld, a refusal to repeat the rumor within yourself. Keep the purpose of it secret. This is not exorcism on a stage. This is the government of your inner court. You will find that as you stand in this non-aggression, the claim reveals its native nothingness. Do not rush to see results. Let the peace certify your posture. If it returns, and often it will test your gait, do not arm yourself with louder words. Remain, be still. Perfect love casteth out fear. How? Not by wrestling, by arriving. Let love arrive by not scrambling to control the scene. Refuse the claim oxygen, and it cannot flame. Let me give you faces for these words. The twinge in the body speaks. Attend to me as doom. You answer not as combat, as non-consent. Be still. I do not fight you. I do not feed you. I do not fear you. I am kept. The email with its threat says, react now. Peace forbids the hand and grants you the hour. The old memory that tightens the jaw says, rehearse me and hate them again. You answer, get thee behind me. Not denial of history, denial of its power to rule consciousness. The bank figure says, panic. You hold to the fact, the earth is the Lord's, and the fullness thereof, and you refuse to add your authority to a number on a screen. But I must warn you with the same frankness as before. These sentences in your mouth without practice are letters. They are letters of truth, good letters, but letters nonetheless. The claim will smell the difference unless peace has been constituted at center by your discipline of stillness. You will only be throwing words at shadows, and you will grow tired and declare the principle untrue. Do not do that. Return to the practice. Day by day, be still until peace rules. Then when you say, even silently, get thee behind me, it will not be you speaking at a condition. It will be I addressing an appearance that never had substance. And appearances dissolve in proportion as you stop fighting them and stop granting them power. Remain 1 minute longer than your impulse. Keep your sword sheathed. Let the I that I am be the only power acknowledged. In that acknowledgement, claims sink back into the nothingness from which they strutted forth. Now then, I must say to you very plainly, because this is the crux on which many have stumbled and then blamed the way. Knowing truth is not the same as truth known as you. The correct statements, even the most beautiful scriptures, are the letter until the spirit inhabits them as your very consciousness. The letter killeth, but the spirit giveth life. Do not be offended at that word. It is mercy. It saves you years. You can memorize 1,000 sentences and still be governed by fear at midnight, but 1 drop of realized peace, spirit, become awareness, will keep you when words cannot be found. Thy word have I hid in mine heart, not on my tongue only. How then does letter become spirit? By training, and only by training. You begin, As we have begun with what feels mechanical, you take your place as the beholder and you address the inner speech, the shoulders, the chest, the spine, the legs, with a steady, be still and know that I am God. At first you may feel you are speaking into a room that answers nothing. Good. Continue. It is not a recital. It is a re-education of an unruly student. Your body is your student. Your mind is your student. Be ye doers of the word, and not hearers only. Doing here is consenting again and again to the same stillness until it holds of itself. I must ask you not to judge this work by a day or a week or a single sweet sitting. It will take you not less than 3 to 4 months to successfully accomplish this meditation as a living operation, very often longer. Do not hurry. Do not despair. At first, you may not enjoy it. You may not even approve of it. Continue. There will be days when it seems dry. Continue. Why? Because each return chisels letter into spirit, and one morning or evening, without your arranging it, you will discover that the stillness you used to bid has arrived before you bid it. The breath has slowed without your counting. The shoulders have softened without your command. The inner voice speaks before you assemble phrases. This is the sign that practice is passing into consciousness. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. Now, to keep the fire tended, you must establish a rule. Give yourself a daily period, close to an hour if you are able, never less than what honesty will call substantial. And then, several times in the day, return for 5 minutes only, not to produce an effect, but to re-enter your place as beholder. Step out of the named self. Step into I. Sit in the car before entering the building and be still. Stand at the sink and be still. Pause in a hallway and be still. You are not withdrawing from duty. You are consenting to be governed in duty. Keep the purpose of it secret. Do not make a show of your religion. Enter into thy closet, even if the closet is 5 minutes in a stairwell. You will find that these short returns keep the channel clear. The mind cannot collect enough noise between them to persuade you that the old government has come back. And do not think this is easy work. It is hard, hard work in the beginning. Not the strain of forcing results, the work of clarifying thought, of refusing to be the beggar at the door of appearances, of remembering your place. But then the yoke becomes easy because the government is no longer in your hands. Instead of you addressing, you will hear yourself being addressed. Action rises without pressure. Restraint holds you without grit teeth. My sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they follow me. You will not have to manufacture following. You will discover you are being led. I must add a warning, as always, for love of your progress. This path is not for spectators. Do not take these truths out to win arguments. Do not attempt healing work in yourself or others until peace has been established as ruler. Put up thy sword, even the sword of brilliant phrases. This is for those willing to be governed from within, who will sit 1 minute longer than their impulse, who will make the 5-minute returns when nothing seems to need them, who will accept that consciousness is constituted by repetition until repetition is no more needed. Then you will say, not with pride, but with quiet certainty, "Oh, now I know. You can't fool me now." Not because of sentences, but because spirit has become your seeing, and truth at last has become life. Now then, I must ask you to take this not as suggestion, but as rule, because without rule your fine intentions will evaporate at the first busy day. Set a daily period and keep it as you would keep an appointment with your life, close to 1 hour. Morning is best for most. If not, then the hour you will not betray. During that hour, do exactly what we have done together. Take your place as beholder. Address the inner speech, the head, the shoulders, the arms, the chest, the breath, the back, the belly, the legs and feet slowly without display. Be still and know that I am God. Remain 1 minute longer than your impulse would allow. Do not hurry. This is your primary obedience, not to produce an effect, but to yield governance to the presence that governs. Then, several times during the day, return for 5 minutes only in the car before entering the building. At the sink, in the hallway, enter into thy closet, unseen. Step out of the named self, step into I, say little or nothing. A single be still, and the remembrance I am is here. These short returns keep the channel clear, so the mind cannot collect noise enough to persuade you the old government has returned. Do not fail them because nothing seems to need them. They are what keeps nothing needing them. Now, I must lay upon you the necessity of secrecy and sincerity. Keep the purpose of this hidden. Do not discuss your hour. Do not announce your 5-minute returns. If you kneel, kneel in secret. If you light a candle, let no one know why. Thy Father which seeth in secret shall reward thee openly. All worship advertised becomes display. It loses its weight. Let the fruit speak. When peace begins to rule, you will not have to say so. Your house will learn it from the way you answer the door. And I must forbid, for the sake of your safety, the wrong motive. Never enter stillness to gain power over another, to bend outcomes, to press your will in silence. Put up thy sword, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Enter to yield, to be governed, to have your instruments brought under the one eye. If you find in yourself a prayer aimed at a person, stop, be still. Let the government be upon his shoulder, not upon your technique. Establish, too, a simple reporting within yourself. Mark the day, yes. Write it when peace descends during the hour and holds after the hour. Note the first morning when you enter the seat and discover that stillness has arrived before you did. Note the moment when, instead of addressing, you hear yourself addressed. I will never leave thee nor forsake thee. Do not parade these notes. Keep them as a quiet ledger of grace. If you are in this work with me, I will expect you to recognize that day and never again be fooled by appearances that boast louder than peace. Finally, let us seal what has been revealed. The God who seemed silent was never absent. The veil was your own inner talking, your management, your urgency calling itself prayer. The discipline you are accepting now, 1 hour daily, several 5-minute returns, secrecy of purpose, non-aggression of motive, this removes the veil. My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Let that peace rule. Keep this rule privately and steadily, and you will discover, without fanfare, the stillness where you are addressed. Be still, and know, I am God.